Hello everyone, I welcome you all for the next session on Where the Mind is Without Free by Rabindranath Tagore, which has been taken from a collection of poems called Gitanjali, and this poem is the 35th poem in the collection Gitanjali. Let's move on to the bio note of Rabindranath Tagore and a brief note on what is he known for. And he is a multifaceted bard, a professional poet, singer, and a storyteller. And he is a great educationist who founded the Shantiniketan, which later became well known as Vishwabharati University. And he had a key and pivotal role in freedom fighting. And above all, he's a musician as well as an artist. And finally, is the greatest soul of the nation. He was born at Calcutta by the time it was called Bengal Presidency during the British India, and is the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1913 for the same book Gitanjali. And he is the one who introduced prose poems into literature, and all his writing is known for using the colloquial language into Bengal literature and no polished language like other poets. And he has composed over thousand poems, 8 volumes of short stories, and 8 novels. And to his credit, he has 20 plays. To his credit, he has 20 plays. His experimental school called Shantiniketan. His compositions were chosen by two national anthems. One is an Indian national. He is the one who composed the national anthem of India as well as Bangladesh. And to know about this poem, Gitanjali, otherwise it is Song of Offerings, and which was originally written in Bengali, named as Prarthanam in 1910, and the same has been translated into English by himself, Rabindranath Tagore. And this poem, the Song of Offering, was written during the pre-colonial era, and which has 103 prose poems, 53 Gitanjali, and he has another 50 other poems in his works, which became popular in the West. And this is the 35th poem in Gitanjali. It included in the new volume called an Naivedya, which is offering to God, which means a prayer offered to God. And this is to protect. He prays to God in order to protect the nation from the evil effects. The evil effects here sounds as the British colonial period, by the time India was under the clutches of British. And he draws a picture of free India through this particular poem. And he dreams of nation with no boundary. There should not be any boundary, either it's a mental or a physical or a psychological boundaries. And this is his idealistic dream about India. And of course, the tone of the poem is self-explanatory, and the reflection of the poem's good and ideal nature. It reflects, and he prays for the welfare of the country. And this was written during the time when India was under the British rule, and people were eagerly waiting to get their freedom from Britishers. Let's move on to the poem. Where the mind is without free. Where the mind is without free. Where the mind is without free, and the head is held high. Here, the head held high refers to having dignity and self-respect. When you have dignity and self-respect, you may not have a fear against anybody, whoever it is. So that's what he says. He wishes, no, this is his idealistic view. No? He wishes his countrymen to have self-respect, to have a dignified manner, to be treated in a dignified manner, to have a dignity. So that's what he brings out in the opening line of the poem, where the mind is without free. You should not have any fear. When do you have fear? When you commit something wrong, when you are not strong enough to face, and you will have a fear towards somebody. But here he wants all his countrymen to be without fear and should have dignity and self-respect. That's what he says. He's held high, dignity and self-respect. And moving on to the next one, he wishes the country to have free education. Knowledge is of something related to education, where the knowledge is free, not provided with money. Only those who have money can get education. During the colonial period, only the selected group of people, only a few selected members got education. And it is not, where the knowledge should be given freely. Everyone should have the access. Everyone should get knowledge, should get education, irrespective of class, gender, caste, religion, and so on. So everyone should be allowed to get education. That's what he tries. Education is free. Where the world has not broken up into fragments, where the world has not broken up into fragments, small units, which means he wishes to see the nation to be united, to be one with everyone, to be in the union, not to be separated, not to be in small units. So he wished so that you can fight against the evil, you can fight against the Britishers by narrow domestic walls. Look at that. This refers to small units. And moving to the next line, by narrow domestic walls. He says it should not be broken up by the narrow domestic walls, the narrow-minded thoughts in terms of language, in terms of culture, in terms of tradition. There should not be liberalism. No, there should not be domestic wall created, either physical wall it refers to, or the mental or emotional or psychological, whatever it is. And he also talks about where words come out from the depth of truth. Here, this word is truth. Truth, where he wants his country, all his countrymen to speak the truth, to be honest. So his countrymen should speak truth and should be honest. And where the tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. So he wishes his countrymen, all his countrymen, to work hard without giving up towards perfection, to attain the perfection. How can you attain a perfection? Unless you work hard. Tireless striving. Look at that. Continuously, without giving up. You work towards attaining the perfection. And moving to the next one, he wishes to see the country where the clear stream of reason, logic, this awareness comes only when you get education. This is related to logical thinking. So the logical thinking arises by questioning. You start questioning what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. Has not lost its way. So he wishes to see all his countrymen should have logical thinking. How do you get logical thinking? Only by getting education, only by getting awareness. Without education, you cannot get logical thinking. Without awareness, you cannot think in a logical way, whether it is right or wrong. And he also wishes his countrymen should not be lost into the dreary desert. Look at the dreary desert, the dead desert, the sand which is of devoid of a kind of a life, devoid of happiness, positivity, optimism. No, you should not lose your dreary desert into this dreary desert, dead sand of the dead habit, dreary desert sand of the dead habit, the so-called outdated habits, customs, and traditions. So you should ask question, any kind of a habit, any kind of a practice that we have, all these are all superstitious belief. Dead habits refers to superstitious belief, blind beliefs. Still we keep on having those kind of a blind belief rituals. So where the poet speaker says he wants his countrymen not to be taken away, not to be lost into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, and where the mind is led forward, not backward. Only when you follow these blind beliefs, you would be in the backward. So he wants his mind, his countrymen's mind, to be led forward by the refers to God, because it's a prayer. I told you it's a prayer. He prays to God into ever widening, not narrowing thought. Look at the words that he uses, into ever widening thought and action. So all your thought and action should be filled with truth, and into the heaven of freedom. My Father, look at that, my Father. It's a prayer. My Father, my Heavenly Father, let my country awake. Awake from what? Awake from the ignorance, awake from the slavery system, awake from the way they are treated, ill treated. With that, the lecture comes to an end. Thank you. See you in the next lecture.